Okay, okay.
Yes, madam, we can start now.
Okay. Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all the dear participants in online course in English Literature SEM 1 organized by Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Rajkumar Kevalramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya and R.S. Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College in collaboration with Board of Studies Nagpur. Today we have among us Dr. Sujata Chakravarti as a resource person. Let me introduce Madam to you. Dr. Sujata Chakravarti is working as an associate professor and head department of English at Dayanand Arya Kanya Mahavidyalaya Nagpur. Madam has taught at University of Baroda, delivered lectures at refresher courses in RTM Nagpur University Nagpur. Madam has worked in the academic bodies of a college and had contributed significantly for academic excellence and quality research. Several national and international publications are to her credit. She is a research guide also. She has completed one minor research project sponsored by UGC. She has coordinated IQSC and NAC also. I welcome you, ma'am, and request you to conduct the session. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Madhvi ma'am, for those nice words of introduction. And at the outset, let me begin by thanking Principal Dr. Vandana Bhagdikar, Principal of Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Nandanwan, Nagpur, Dr. Urmila Dabir, my respected guide, Principal of Rajkumar Kevalramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur, and Dr. Tanuja Nafre, Principal of R.S. Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College, Nagpur, and the Board of Studies, RTM Nagpur University, who are conducting this BA SEM 1 online certificate course for students of English literature, BA SEM 1. Students will indeed benefit a lot by this from this course, from this endeavor. And as we all know, going through these times of the pandemic situation, wherein students cannot attend classes, so this move on the parts of the three colleges to begin this course so that an e-content can be developed and students can for all times have access to this material whenever they feel the need and urge to. So it's a wonderful thing. And I will be, students, I will be dealing with a very famous poem by the great writer William Shakespeare, which is called All the World's a Stage. Let me start by sharing my screen. Madhvi madam, is my screen visible now?
Yes, yes, it is clearly visible, ma'am.
Thank you. So students, here is the poem All the World's a Stage by William Shakespeare. Let us see something about the writer, William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, the celebrated writer, born in April 1564. There are doubts about his actual date of birth, but we know from records that he was baptized on the 26th of April, 1564. Born in Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire, and died on the 23rd of April, 1616. Among his works, he has 154 sonnets, 2 long narrative poems, and about 3 dozen plays to his credit. Now, students, you are in this BA first sem of English literature, and you will wonder that a writer who wrote so many hundreds of years ago, what is the relevance today? And we have also heard about Shakespeare, the marvelous writer, the great dramatist of all times. He is regarded by many as the great dramatist of all times. Why is he regarded such in such a manner and in so high and lofty terms? Shakespeare occupies a unique position in world literature. Other poets such as Homer and Dante, and novelists such as Leo Tolstoy and Charles Dickens have transcended national barriers, but no writers living reputation can compare to that of Shakespeare, whose plays written in the late 16th and early 17th centuries for a small repertory theatre are now performed and read more often and in more countries than ever before. The prophecy of his great contemporary, the poet and dramatist Ben Jonson, that Shakespeare was not of an age but for all times, has been fulfilled. Shakespeare is probably the most famous playwright in the world, having written nearly 37 plays and 154 sonnets. But why is his work still read, studied, and loved even 400 years later? Shakespeare wrote about timeless themes such as life and death, youth versus age, love and hate, fate and free will, to name but a few. With the constantly changing world we live in today, these themes are perhaps more relevant than they have ever been. Not only did Shakespeare teach us about ourselves and humanity, but he also invented around 1700 words which we still use in everyday English. He often changed nouns into verbs, verbs into adjectives, connecting words together and coming up with wholly original ones too. Here are just a few to which we owe Shakespeare a thank you. You will be uh, amazed to know of these words like generous, birthplace, negotiate, gossip, bedroom, and amazement, to name just a few. It is truly amazing that one person could have such an influence on a language. What Shakespeare has taught us is that success comes through being creative, playing with language, and finding new ways to communicate. Shakespeare's plays are studied in schools and colleges across the country. The most famous include Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Julius Caesar, and Macbeth. Apart from the rich language, these plays contains hundreds of pearls of wisdom. Now, when I spoke of Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, maybe it rang a bell in your minds. You have heard of the Hindi movies Macbeth, Makbul, which was adapted for the Hindi screen. And also Hamlet also has been adapted, and there are many films based on Romeo and Juliet. Let me quote a few lines of Shakespeare. Love all, but trust a few. Do wrong to no one. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. A friend is one that knows you as you are, understands where you have been, accepts what you have become, and still gently allows you to grow. Do these quotations sound familiar? We have used them so often, maybe unknowingly, that who were they first written by? The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. As a teenager, it was a little daunting opening Shakespeare's Macbeth, attempt to read the unfamiliar words and understand them. Yet, with a little patience and hard work, I soon came to love the stories and its imaginative language. The same can be said of mastering any new language. Stay positive and push yourself to do your best. And I think you also, in time, will come to know Shakespeare, love Shakespeare, and adore his works. So, with these words of introduction about Shakespeare, which I thought necessary because you students are new to the course of English literature, about the poem. The poem we have in our syllabus is All the World's a Stage. It is a very famous monologue. What is a monologue? A monologue is a speech by one person. And many a times, this word is mistakenly used by you can say Indians as a dialogue. You know, people in Hindi say dialogue mat jhado. You have heard about that phrase. Now, dialogue actually means a speech between two people, a communication between two people. Dia means two. When a person speaks by himself or herself, it is a monologue. Now, monologue is different from a soliloquy. Soliloquy is a speech wherein a person just talks to himself or herself and there is no listener. But a monologue is a speech where a person in a poetic form, where a person speaks and others listen. This poem is an extract from Shakespeare's play As You Like It, the famous romantic comedy, from Act 2, Scene 7. It is in the form of a speech by a character named Jax. In this, Jax compared the world to a stage, the stage. And interestingly, this poem is also anthologized as The Seven Ages of Man. In many, you will find this poem is about the seven ages of man, wherein Shakespeare talks about how the life of a person can be divided into seven stages or seven phases. So many anthologists like to call this all the world's a stage, going by the first line of the poem, and many people like to call it the seven ages of man, going by the content of the poem. The seven stages of a man's life. What are they? The first, to begin with, an infant. Infancy, the beginning of a person, the very birth, up to the many years, maybe when the infant, the baby, can maybe stand up by himself or herself and express his or her opinions. The second one, that of a schoolboy. The third is that of a lover. The fourth, a soldier. The fifth, a wise justice. The sixth one, an old gentleman. Now, here also, many places you will find different ways of talking about this sixth stage. Many people would like to call it the middle age, the late middle age, and some would like to call it the old, the beginning, the onset of the old age. And the last one is actually referred to by Shakespeare as the second childhood. But when we read the poem, you will understand that this second childhood also means that a person is nearing his door to death. Okay, let us proceed. A quick look at the poem, which is very interesting reading. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being seven ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubbled reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The sixth stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank and his big manly voice. Turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all, that ends the strange eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Saw teeth, saw eyes, saw taste, saw everything. That is a poem for you. The beginning lines and the oft quoted ones. All the world's a stage. You find the picture I put for you on the screen. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being seven ages. Now, in these lines, the world is compared to a stage. These are the famous opening lines of this monologue, this poem. All the world's a stage. The entire world is compared to a stage. Now, and all the men and women, they are merely players. So what do these players in the sense they are actors? They have their exits and their entrances. They come into the world and they exit the world. They come in, that means they are born, and they exit meaning they die and leave the stage. So if you can imagine a stage before you, the curtains are drawn, the stage is for you to see and that means this stage now is the stage not only of a theater, but the stage of the world, the big wide world where we all enter for the first time as a new introduced actor. Whatever the force of destiny or God that you believe in, that great power has put us into this world to go and play out our parts. So the person enters the world, has a grand entrance, and the person also will play out his role, whatever the role given to him or her. It might be a minor role, it might be a major role, it may be a side supportive role, or it may be a short role, but a very memorable one. So whatever the role the person has to play, the person will play the role and make his exit. And one man in his time plays many parts. Now, on an actor on stage might come just to play one part. But if you have noticed in many movies, an actor at a time plays 2 or 3 roles. We call it the double role or the triple role, where the actor plays not only himself or herself, but of a twin brother or sister, and at the same time maybe the father also. The makeup on the face, on the body, change the person's look, and the person ages or the person becomes young. So that is also possible. But Shakespeare says one man in this time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. So every man in his full lifetime has many parts to play. And these are the various phases. So the world is a stage. And these lines, dear students, are the very famous lines of the poem, and they have been translated into so many languages. I remember a famous movie by Rajesh Khanna where he talks about these words, Ye duniya ek rangmanch hai. You know, if you have listened to those lines, I think Amitabh Bachchan is also in that movie. You will find him speaking these very same lines, just translated into Hindi. So we come into this world and we go out from this world. In these lines, the poet compares the world to a stage, and all the men and women are only actors and actresses on the stage of this world. All these people have different routes to enter the stage and also have different exits to go out. They enter the stage when they're born and leave the stage when they die. Every person during his lifetime plays many parts, and Shakespeare has divided these into 7 ages. This is what I talked about in those lines and explained them. And you'll find the figure here, the 7 stages where a child, an infant, and then the toddler, the schoolboy, and so on. The first stage of a man's life, the infant. At first, the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. The first stage of every human being is the stage of infancy, where he makes his presence felt by crying at the top of his voice. Mewling. Now, at first, the infant, if you look at my PPT, at first, the infant, you will find here, the infant is mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. And what the word mewling means, the weak crying sound, how an infant talks. Mewling is a cry of a young child. When the child cries, a weak crying sound, and he or she keeps on crying, and the sound is, sometimes that sound resembles even the sound of a kitten. Even the kitten, when it cries, so at many times when the birth of a baby in the house, people are not aware. People do not know that. People do not know whether it is the kitten or the small infant. Okay, and the word puking means vomiting out. The first stage of every human being is a stage of infancy, where he makes his presence felt by crying at the top of his voice. Now, the first stage of every human being is a stage of infancy. And the moment the child is born, he lets out a soulful cry, announcing his birth in this world, announcing his entrance in the world, a grand entrance made by the infant. And the infant cries, makes his presence felt, and keeps on crying until the nurse or the mother understands what is it that the baby really wants. So, and the nurse or the mother feeds the baby thinking the baby might be hungry, and then the baby actually doesn't want to eat. So the baby just vomits out. So puking. So an infant, you will find these two actions very evident of an infant. In an infant, mewling, crying out continuously, being soothed, being silenced, being pacified by the mother or the nurse, and then puking. So these two alternating things. The second stage of a man's life, according to Shakespeare, is that of the whining schoolboy. The whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like the snail unwillingly to school. So, the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. The whining schoolboy. What does the word whine mean? It is a plaintive, high-pitched, protracted sound, as in pain, fear, supplication, or complaint, maybe an unpleasant sound. Now, if you remember yourselves going to school, how many of you or how many of us were really happy going to school? Did we go to school very willingly, looking forward to activities? Maybe later, but in the beginning, people went very unwillingly. It is not a very pleasant thing for a child sent to school with a satchel, and the satchel is a school bag. So the schoolboy is disturbed, displeased, shows his unwillingness, and he goes to school with his bag full of books. The mother or the father, maybe the parents, and whoever is in the house, the grandparents, try to pacify the boy, telling him or her that the school will be a very interesting place to go to. He will make new friends, maybe he or she, and have wonderful toys. The teachers will be very good. They'll have a big playground to play in. But all these things do not make the school an interesting place for the boy, for the girl, because the child feels that at home, he or she is a center of attraction for the parents. Everything revolves around the child. And when he is sent out into this wide, unknown world, so very unwillingly, the child goes to school. So this stage is described by Shakespeare in these words. Then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. The second stage is the whining schoolboy, where he has to be charged to go to school, charged, where he learns to utter a plaintive, high-pitched, protracted sound, as in pain, fear, supplication, or complaint. So you find the words also described over here, a plaintive, high-pitched, protracted sound. And other words also have described over here. Satchel is a school bag, and creeping means moving slowly. Okay, and you also find the word snail. What is a snail? A snail is an insect. Snail is an insect which has a shell on the body, and because of the shell is an outgrowth of the body liquids which solidify. So that shell makes it difficult for the snail to walk or to move very quickly. So the snail, there's therefore the saying, as slow as a snail. It is said to be the slowest moving animal on earth, as slow as a snail. So the child walks very unwillingly to school. And the third one, we come to the third stage of a man's life. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. And then the lover. Now the boy has outgrown his years in school, and the boy is growing up, and he comes into teenage maybe, and then he has got this new uh, emotions in him or her, and the lover, although Shakespeare says it's a man's life, so we have to be patient with that. So the lover sighing like furnace. What is a sigh? A sigh is a long breath. Take out a breath, take in a long breath and release it slowly. It's as if you are not very happy about it. And what is a furnace? A furnace can be compared to an oven. With a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Woeful means sad. Ballad is a kind of a song. And mistress is the lady whom he loves. So the third stage is the early youth, where the person is at the peak of love and high romance. There the person romanticizes many girls, attaches feelings of romance and some emotions. And many times it may so happen that that love is only one-sided. It is not reciprocated. And when love is not reciprocated, then obviously the person is going to be sad. And what does a person do? A person writes out or sings songs, sad songs to his mistress. And this the word Mrs. Eyebrow here refers to the beauty. So he sighs like a burning furnace and sings the ballads of romance. And the sigh is referred here. Take out a long, deep breath, and it's sad, woeful. And then we go on to the fourth stage. Now, the fourth stage of a man's life, that of a soldier. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths, bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. The fourth stage, now the child has outgrown his emotions, his turbulent years, where he might have been pining in love for his beloved and wanted his love to be reciprocated. So many a time, the child, a teenager, spent some years of his life going about with a long drawn face, singing songs, singing woeful songs, remaining sad many a time, maybe proposing to his beloved, but not getting the expected response he would have liked, and so passes the stage, fantasizing about his beloved. The fourth stage of a man's life is that of a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard. What is a pard? A pard is a leopard. Again, a poetic innovation. The poets have this poetic license where they can change words as requires for the needs of the poem. So, soldier full of strange oaths. What is an oath? An oath is a formal promise to do something. So, the soldier swears, takes oaths, and he has a beard like the pard. Now, have you seen the beard of a leopard? The pard that I told you is a leopard. Have you seen a leopard, or for that matter, leopard, a panther, or such an animal, such a wild cat? You'll find they have these the hair on the chin, which is called a beard. But is it the same kind of beard that you will find in people everywhere? When you will find boys do grow a beard, that beard in the beginning is unkempt, and boys do not actually mind so much that they have such a kind of a beard, and they take they are very proud. They take pride in their beards, that they have grown a beard. Now they look like a man. So, and the beard just grows on. It just increases and grows on. So a soldier does not have much time to look after his beard. The beard has started growing, and it is at that. So Shakespeare has compared the beard of a soldier to that of a pard, because a soldier has many things to bother about, not about his appearance only. So his beard resembles that of a leopard. He is jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel. Jealous in honor. What do you mean by that? Jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel. If at the slightest provocation, At the slightest point where the soldier feels that he has to talk about live up to the reputation of his country or the side he's fighting for, his state or his unit, the soldier will not draw back. The soldier will not think twice before drawing out his arms, his gun maybe, or whatever weapon he has to fight with. So he will immediately not think twice, and he will be there to quarrel it out, and sudden and quick in quarrel, not bothering at all, not just not thinking about anything, just suddenly and quickly he will start quarreling, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. Now, what do you understand by bubble reputation? Bubble reputation, what is a bubble? A bubble is the air that comes on a drop of water. It turns out into bubble, So, and how long does the bubble last? A bubble is very short lived. It is just there for some moments and it's gone. Within the next moment, the bubble will be gone. So, the bubble reputation, the reputation is here compared to a bubble because as long as the bubble lasts, so that bubble reputation the soldier seeks, even in the cannon's mouth. So the soldier will not think twice, will not think at all before even fighting it out with people. Will draw out his weapon, draw out his gun, and be ready to take the enemy on without a second's thought as to what might happen to him. What might happen to his life? Will he be injured? Will something happen to him? Will he come back from that fight? A soldier does not think on those lines at all. The soldier is very quick to take on a quarrel at the slightest, that the drop of a hat, also you can say, that just as Shakespeare says, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. So even in the mouth of a cannon, the soldier might think that my reputation lies there. If I have to fight it out, even at the cost of that, even at the cost of my life, if I have to fight for my reputation, it should be it. Reputation, honor matters so much for the soldier. That is what he's taught, that he has to at all times safeguard the honor of the side he's representing. The side, the unit, his army, his state, his country. So he must safeguard the honor. He is there as the the sign, the symbol of his country, and he has to be there. So it is over my dead body, as I say, as a soldier can say, over my dead body. If you want to go on that side, you have to walk over my dead body. That means as long as I'm alive, you do not have permission to go to that side, because I am here safeguarding the honor. So jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. So the fourth stage is that of a soldier, where life is full of obligations, commitments, compliances, oaths and vows. The soldier is made to take a vow. The soldier takes oaths and endlessly, continuously keeps on fighting for his honor, and all to maintain a dignified reputation. The soldier has to maintain the dignity of his country, of his side at any cost. We go on, proceed to the fifth stage of a man's life. You see, students, how we are proceeding stage by stage, as said by Shakespeare. Now here on the screen, we'll find a justice, a judge. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. So what does the justice do? You find the picture of the justice. Before this, we discussed the soldier with a beard like a pard. And what kind of a beard does justice have? A beard of formal cut. So justice, his beard will be shaved, because a justice cannot afford to look unkempt. A justice will be there, a judge will be there sitting on the high table in the courtroom, where the room full of lawyers and other people who belong to the court of law, some people who have come to listen in, for some people who are against, some people who are for, and the judge is the person they're all looking at. The judge is the person they are pleading to. So a person whom you look up to, has to have maintain a certain kind of an appearance. When a person becomes a justice, and here Shakespeare wants us to understand that he is here symbolizing the fifth stage symbolizes, talks symbolically of a justice. But in other words, it can be also taken as, it can be thought of as an adulthood, where a man tries to live a fair and justified life. His eyes now are full of seriousness. Gone are those days of the soldier, of the teenager. The teenager, you might remember, the teenager walked around with a long drawn out face, with woeful, with the sadness in his eyes all the time. And the soldier, always quick eyes, looking here and there, looking out for danger all the time. But a justice, a judge, is growing into adulthood. And as an adult, it is thought of, it is expected that the person will be somewhat complacent, a person will be somewhat responsible, and the person is expected to behave in a certain manner, not not take oaths, not swear all the time, not act impulsively, but to weigh out, to decide. So a judge, what does a judge do? The role of a judge is to balance both the sides, to hear out both sides, and to then weigh, to hear out the laws of both sides, to hear the witnesses, to think on those lines, to then refer to the books of law, maybe the rules that the law underlines, how a judge proceeds in a manner. So taking everything into cognizance, thinking about everything, the judge will then deliver his order. So that is how an adult is supposed to behave, responsibly, not impulsively, and have a look of seriousness in his eyes. So all those, the growing up years have all culminated into a serious kind of a person who is expected to be taken seriously by others and who behaves in this serious fashion. And what happens after that? He has to take a lot of correct decisions to keep up with the ever-changing times. The judge doesn't know what kind of witness might come, what turn the courtroom might take, but the judge has to be there complacently and not supposed to take sides. He cannot take sides. He just has to weigh both sides, balance it out. And it is thought that such a kind of person will have less of movement. Maybe he is believed to be that way. So his belly becomes fair, round belly, the fair, round belly. But these days, judges are smarter, maybe. We don't have those round bellied judges anymore these days. But in the days of Shakespeare, it might have been so. So that is how he is described, in fair, round belly with good capon lined. So the belly used to be fair and round. And what is a capon? A capon is a cockerel, castrated to improve the flesh for use as food. And so cockerel, that is a hen. So chicken or a hen. So it's a hen. So sorry, a male hen. And so that is what they castrated to improve the flesh for use as food. And his beard is shaped to a formal cut. So full of wise saws and modern instances. He can give examples from modern days. He has got saws as sayings. He has got wise sayings. He can always, if he says something, he can provide numerous examples, and thus he plays his part as a very responsible citizen of society. That is what the justice symbolically symbolizes, that a responsible citizen of the society, that is adulthood, where he has outgrown his days of being the lover who is rejected, whose love has not been reciprocated, who goes around with a long drawn out face, singing woeful ballads to his beloved. And then that of a young soldier, where a soldier is very impulsive and then culminates into the life of a justice. The judge, he is seated on a table, doesn't move around like the soldier with a weapon, ready to take on the enemy impulsively. Even a judge, if a justice sees that the person the lawyer maybe is fighting a wrong case, should not be talking about what he's doing, but he does not admonish. He just listens patiently and admonishes in his way, as permitted by the rules of law. and then we proceed to the next stage. The sixth stage of a man's life is that of an elderly person. That is how I have talked about it. And this is this is uh, talked about by people, like I said in the beginning, even as a middle age. But the way Shakespeare says, a middle-aged person actually does not behave like that. Let us read Shakespeare's lines. The sixth stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. So the sixth stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon. Now, a middle-aged person does not really uh, move around like this. A middle-aged person, as we see them now, are all smart people. Middle age would be maybe 40, 45 years of age. And do you think at that time a person would move around like this? No. When does a person feel happy to walk around in slippers? When the person just will not be bothered about how he's viewed by the world, that a person is worried only up to some extent of his life. After that, the person says, I have lived my life according to what society wants to see me as, and now I will live life on my terms. So it doesn't matter if I'm seen around in pantaloons, doesn't matter if my feet are slippered and I have not put on those smart shoes, even though they make my foot hurt, that they hurt my feet. Doesn't matter to me anymore. It doesn't matter that the world does not think my appearance is not smart enough. So the sixth stage shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon with spectacles on nose. Spectacles on nose. Otherwise, when a person wears spectacles, the spectacles are put firmly on the eyes. But when a person has spectacles on nose, means the person uses this only to read. And at that time, the spectacles have to be on the nose, because this, like I have got my spectacles on my nose right now. It is not securely pushed towards the back near the eyes, because if I want to look at you people, I have to look over the spectacles, to look at a distant place. I have to look over the spectacles, because for that I would not need my reading glasses. So spectacles on nose specifically mean the reading glasses, which a person needs to look at the near objects, which the eyesight to look at near objects, the eye deteriorates, and the person cannot see properly, so needs spectacles. And a pouch on the side. Pouch on the side, because the old man, the elderly person, keeps on forgetting things. So the person has a pouch hanging to his side with long cord, long string from the shoulders, and on one side he'll have a pouch, and in that pouch he will remember to put in maybe keys or some change, some money, or whatever more is important that the person should have at all times. His youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for its trunk shank. Shank is the trunk. That is the part of the lower limb in humans between the knee and the ankle. That is the trunk. So, a person, if you have seen some people, some elderly people, even if they are, say, maybe 6 feet in height at a young age, you'll find the height somewhat decreases. How does it happen? Because the person, the shank shrinks, something happens to the bone structure, and the person's height seems to visibly lessen. The person who used to be taller than you maybe will stand at the same height as you, because the person has become elderly, and the person's posture, the person's way of carrying himself or herself changes, and the person is slowly turning into the old age. And his clothes have become too wide. His youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank. So his clothes that used to fit him so well, the befitting, actually what he should look like, smart outfit, nothing loose overhanging clothes. Now those things that have been saved well in his youth do not fit him so well anymore. They turn out to be loose because his shank has shrunk. It has become less. Okay. And his big manly voice. What has happened to his big manly voice? Turning again towards childish treble. The manly voice, when a boy in puberty, the boys attain a different kind of voice. The Adam's apple, becomes prominent in the throat of boys, and their voice changes. The voice becomes more mature and more, gruff at times. And that is a transition between a boy and a man. So the manly voice, the booming voice, that voice comes on. But slowly, when the person becomes elderly, that voice again turns towards childish treble with pipes and whistles in his sound. And why does the voice have pipes and whistles in the sound? Maybe because some teeth are missing, and the voice, the sound, the words pass through those teeth, so you can hear about pipes and whistles in the sound. So that is the middle age. Here is where he prepares himself for the next level in life, that is the old age. He learns to relax from the hustles of life. His strength begins to weaken and spends more time within the roof of his house. He looks like a buffoon at times and an old fool sometimes in his rugged old slippers. He hangs his spectacles on his nose, for his shank begins to shrink with time. Even his voice begins to descend to a lower tone. So the strong manly voice, it becomes again comes to the childish treble of a young boy. And now the seventh stage of a man's life, the last one, is the second, childishness. What you have on the screen before you is an actual image of an old man, and this is unfortunately what happens, but this is something necessary. You'll find here the last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second, childishness and mere oblivion. Sa teeth, sa eyes, sa taste, sa everything. Now, the word SANS is a French word. It means without. In French, the word is pronounced as sans. And otherwise, in British English or American English, you can say sans. So sans teeth, sans eyes, it would not be wrong. But because the word is actually a French word, I prefer to pronounce it as sans. So sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. That's the last scene of all. That ends this strange, eventful history. So the man has lived a full life. He has taken birth in the world, proceeded to the age of the school-going boy, then the lover, then the soldier, the justice then, and then the elderly person, and now he has come to the last scene. So the last scene of all, and the person is absolutely helpless. It ends the strange, eventful history. It is a second, childishness and mere oblivion. Oblivion means forgetfulness. The person forgets everything. He forgets everything and people forget him. So he has come into mere oblivion. Mere means only. It is just forgetfulness. Only forgetfulness. The person is forgotten to the world, and he forgets the world. Memory is gone. Memory slowly but steadily goes away. And the person, the teeth have fallen. You can see the image on the screen before you. The person's teeth, it's a very interesting thing. Even an infant doesn't have teeth. But does the infant's mouth look like the old man's mouth? It doesn't. Because the infant's mouth, you will remember next time when you see, mark it out, the infant doesn't have a single tooth in his mouth. And the old man also doesn't have a single tooth. But what has happened in this the long journey of life is that the infant, the bone structure is strong. The bones will take shape. The mouth has got a certain shape, and the infant has progressed to an adult, and then the teeth have come on. The body has taken a certain shape. The face has taken a certain shape. The facial muscles have taken on that shape, covering the teeth structure. But then when the teeth have fallen out one by one, what happens? The mouth closes down, and it looks different. It looks ridiculous without the teeth. And that is how you'll find the old man's mouth here. And the vision is lost. The eyes are there, but just for the sake of the eyes being there, the vision is lost. The vision deteriorates, cataract sets in, glaucoma sets in maybe, and the vision is more or less, the vision diminishes. So it is a very helpless kind of a position of this the old people have in life. It's the stage of complete oblivion, completely forgotten by people, unknown by people, and thus man completes the drama of his life, goes into absolute forgetfulness. What of the strange eventful history, the hustle and bustle of life, the running about of life, getting angry, loving people, wanting people to reciprocate your love, and judging people, balancing out others' quarrels for them, and then looking after your own self, then not bothering about anything in the world, and then slowly the last stage of life. Now let us take a quick look at the poetic devices used in the poem. A metaphor is there. A metaphor is a figure of speech which compares two unlike things that have something in common. In this, the comparison is made without the use of like or as. Example, seeking the bubble reputation. So, you know, uh, unlike things are compared, but it doesn't say like something. It will just be there. We understand it's a comparison. It's a figure of speech. It compares two things, but you'll not say like this thing or as that, just that. So this line can be taken to be a metaphor, seeking the bubble reputation. And another one is a simile. A simile is a comparison between two unlike things that have something in common. A comparison between two unlike things that have something in common. And words are used like comparing, like he fought like a lion. So, like here, creeping like snail, slowly to school, creeping like snail. So, these are some figures of speech used in the poem. So before concluding, let me once explain the poem in Hindi for those people who might not be so conversant with English, so fluent with English. इस पोएम में शेक्सपियर ने बताया है 7 एजेस के बारे में. अकॉर्डिंग टू शेक्सपियर के हिसाब से इंसान के कोई भी इंसान के जीवन में 7 एजेस होते हैं. उनका एक जीवन को 7 अलग अलग स्टेजेस में हम लोग डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, जिसमें पहला है इन्फेंट का, जो है मतलब इन्फेंट इज जब नवजात शिशु का, जब शिशु का जन्म होता है तब शिशु क्या करता है, शिशु सिर्फ रोता रहता है और माँ की गोदी में या नर्स की गोदी में, जिसके पास भी हो, उसके दो ही काम है, या तो रोना या जो भी खिलाना है उसको वॉमिट कर देना, फिर सो जाना. उसको नर्स को मालूम नहीं, माँ को मालूम नहीं शिशु क्यों रो रहा है, तो उसको खिला दो, ज्यादा हो गया तो वो क्या करेगा, उसको निकाल देगा, प्यूक. सो प्यूकिंग मीन्स वॉमिटिंग, उल्टी कर देना. म्यूलिंग इज अ क्राई, जो बच्चा रोता है उसकी आवाज में बहुत ही पतली सी आवाज, तो कभी कभी लोग सोचते हैं कि बिल्ली का बच्चा रो रहा है, तो दैट इज म्यूलिंग. यू नो, सेकेंड स्टेज जो है शेक्सपियर के हिसाब से स्कूल बॉय का स्टेज. स्कूल बॉय क्या करता है, बहुत ही अनिच्छा से, अनविलिंगली स्कूल जाता है. यहाँ पे आप लास्ट वाली स्लाइड में देख सकते हैं, स्कूल बॉय स्कूल की डेस्क पर बैठा हुआ सो गया, सिर रख के सो गया. ये बहुत ही कॉमन साइट है. स्कूल में बच्चे शुरू में अनिच्छा से जाते हैं, उनकी इच्छा बिल्कुल नहीं है, क्योंकि घर में तो माँ की आंखों का तारा रहते हैं. उनको लगता है उनकी पूरी दुनिया, माँ की दुनिया उसके इर्द गिर्द ही घूमती रहती है. स्कूल भेज दिया गया, वहां पे उसके समान कितने बच्चे, उसकी दुनिया बदल गई सडनली, तो बच्चे को पसंद नहीं आ रही. तो बच्चा स्कूल का बोझा, स्कूल का बैग का बोझा पसंद नहीं करता और बहुत ही धीरे धीरे अनिच्छा से स्कूल का बैग लेके स्कूल जाता है. थर्ड स्टेज लवर का होता है. तब बच्चा टीनेज में आ गया और उसको उसके अंदर नई नई उमंगे पैदा हुई, वो प्यार करना शुरू हो गया, उसके अंदर इमोशंस पैदा हो गई, वो किसी को प्यार करता है, बट फिर अगर वो प्यार रेसिप्रोकेट नहीं होता, मतलब उसको जो वो चाहता है वैसा ही उसको प्यार वापस नहीं मिलता, तो वो दुखी हो जाता है और दुखी होकर वो दुख भरे गाने गाता है, पोएम्स लिखता है और ऐसा ही लंबा चेहरा लेके घूमता रहता है. लवर का स्टेज. फोर्थ स्टेज सोल्जर का. सोल्जर एकदम क्विक, अपने एक्शंस में, रिएक्शंस में तुरंत वो अपना काम करता है. एंड उसको मालूम है देश की रक्षा के लिए, अपने यूनिट की रक्षा के लिए उसको हमेशा तैयार होना चाहिए. 24/7 24 घंटे वो बिल्कुल तैयार है, तैनात है बॉर्डर पर या कहीं भी जहां पे उसको पोजीशन मिली है, दुश्मनों से अपने देश की रक्षा के लिए. हर किसी को दुश्मन समझता है, थोड़ा सा कुछ देखा लड़ने को तैयार हो गया, बिकॉज ही नोज दैट ही हैज टू बी रेडी एट ऑल टाइम्स. उसके बाद जस्टिस का स्टेज आ गया. जस्टिस मतलब यंग एडल्ट का स्टेज, जब इंसान रिस्पॉन्सिबल हो गया है, ही अंडरस्टैंड्स अब मुझे रिस्पॉन्सिबली अपना काम करना है, तुरंत तुरंत गुस्सा होना चलेगा नहीं, अब मुझे नाप तोल मोल के देखना पड़ेगा क्या सही है क्या गलत है, और उस तरह से मुझे अपना डिसीजन लेना पड़ेगा. दैट इज अ स्टेज ऑफ जस्टिस और एडल्टहुड. रिस्पॉन्सिबल सिटीजन, समाज के जिम्मेदार शहरी. देन यू कैन सी द पर्सन इनटू ओल्ड एज. वो लेट मिडिल एज बोल सकते हैं या बिगिनिंग ऑफ ओल्ड एज बोल सकते हैं. अब इंसान अपना पूरा काम जीवन का कार्यक्रम करके 5 स्टेज पार करके 6वें स्टेज पर, जहाँ पे वो पैंटालून्स पहने, लूज कपड़े पहने, स्लीपर पहन के घूमता रहता है. ही डजंट बॉदर कि मुझे लोग क्या समझ रहे हैं, अब मुझे स्मार्ट दिखने की जरूरत क्या है. आई एम नॉट बॉदर्ड. अब मुझे कोई चिंता नहीं लोगों ने मुझे क्या समझा, क्या मेरे बारे में सोचा. एंड द लास्ट स्टेज, ओल्ड मैन का स्टेज. अब वो ओल्ड हो गया है, बूढ़ा हो गया है, उसके पास ना तो आंखों की वो ज्योति रही, ना उसके मुंह के अंदर दांत रहे जो वो चबा चबा के खाना खाएगा. और वो सेकंड चाइल्डिशनेस का स्टेज. फिर से लोगों को उनको समझना पड़ता है. वो एक एक बात को, अगर आपके घर में दादाजी या नाना जी इस उम्र में पहुंच गए हैं, आपको मेरी बातें फिर समझ में आएंगी. वो बार बार एक बात को रिपीट करते हैं, बच्चों के समान जिद करते रहते हैं, मुझे ये चाहिए. बच्चा भी जिद करता है, बूढ़े लोग भी जिद करते हैं, उनको समझ नहीं आता. बस इतना ही फर्क है कि वो बूढ़ा इंसान पूरे स्टेजेस पार करके आया है, तो उनको कुछ कुछ चीजें याद हैं और कुछ भूल गई है. तो वो अभी की दुनिया, प्रैक्टिकल दुनिया से बिल्कुल मुंह मोड़ के कहीं और दुनिया में अपना बना लेते हैं, और लोग उनको भूल जाते हैं, वो लोगों को भूल जाते हैं, और वो वेट कर रहे हैं अपनी मौत के लिए. बहुत ही हेल्पलेस स्टेज. पूरा जीवन जीने के बाद द हेल्पलेस स्टेज. So that is for those students जिनको English पूरा समझा नहीं. And then we come back to my concluding slide. So life is a drama according to Shakespeare. The world is a stage and we human beings are actors. So these are the takeaways from this poem. In questions, you might be asked about each stage in detail. You might be asked about all the 7 stages, name the 7 stages of a man's life according to Shakespeare. And you might be asked about each stage in detail also. But the takeaway is now here on the screen for you. Life is a drama. The world is a stage, and we human beings are actors. Our roles are there. We just have to come on the stage, make our entries, and play out our roles to the best of our abilities. We all must know while playing that stage that we must be aware that one day we all have to exit that stage. That stage is not given to us for all times. It is not given to anybody for all times. Everybody, if the person has had an entry, will have to have an exit also. It is mandatory that an entry mandates an exit also. The theme hints at the greatest irony in the lives of human beings. And this is the greatest irony, that human beings, while living a full life and they're enjoying life to the fullest, do not understand this fact of life, that yes, one day, whatever I'm building, the great house I'm building, the beautiful life that I built up, the many clothes that I have, the person is not going to grave or on the funeral pyre with all these things. The person has to leave them all behind. So in this poem, Shakespeare has masterfully described the stages of human life. And the use of imagery and of acting and stage is a recurrent one in Shakespeare. When you read other poems of Shakespeare or full-fledged plays after this, you will understand how Shakespeare keeps on talking about the imagery of life and stage, that we are playing out our roles. This world is a large stage, a large platform for us, and we are on the concluding stage, and we are going to finish our stage and finish our roles and one day have to exit. But it is not thank you, the journey continues. So this life and maybe the next if you believe in it, and so on and so forth, our life will end, some others will continue, or maybe our life will end and we will start with something else somewhere. I hope students you found this talk interesting and useful. So I will now stop sharing my screen. Madhvi madam, I finished my talk.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for such a very wonderful presentation on the poem Seven Stages of Man. And with a very great skill, you have explained the poem in a very easy way, I hope that the students must have enjoyed your presentation and your skill of explanations. Thank you so much, ma'am. And a big thank you to all the participants for joining us. Tomorrow we will meet